Oh, that was my fun animation. Welcome. um, so we're doing a workers' rights training today. My name is Emily. I'm a labor educator at the Washington State Labor Education and Labor Center. We are going to be doing a 45 training. Oh, there are some people in. Adair, I don't know if you could help me admit people. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So as you can see, um, at the bottom of your screen, at your Zoom screen, there's a mute option, video option. You can take a look at the other participants here. There's the chat feature. There's the reactions feature, which is very fun. I can demo that one for us. Well, I'm sure you guys have have used that before. We also would encourage people to join on a desktop if possible. I know that that's not an option for everyone, and if you are on a phone, this is what the Zoom tech options look like. So you can take a look at muting, unmuting. You can also do the chat by clicking more. That's important. So great, I can go ahead and get started. As I said before, my name's Emily. I'm a labor educator with the Washington State Labor Education and Research Center. We are located at South Seattle College. We do workers' rights trainings very regularly. We're doing them once a month right now throughout the fall, and they are open and available to anyone who wants to come. We also, just gonna admit more people. We also do these trainings and can do these trainings in a really diverse amount of environments. We can do them at departmental meetings. We go to specific schools or communities, and we can tailor this workshop depending on your needs and preferences. So that's just a little plug for us, but also so you know kind of the range and capacity of this workshop. Our agenda today is that we're going to do some introductions. We're going to talk about questions that you might have about being a worker and your rights at work. We're going to talk more about the Labor Center and our tool, rightsatworkwashington.org. We're going to go over your 5 basic rights as workers, and then we're going to learn how to use this tool to better understand the legal environment and your general rights and ability to work. Sorry for that noise. I think it means people are trying to come in. And then we're going to break up into small groups. And I'm trying to keep this at the 45-minute mark. So we might bleed over in the discussion, but if people want to hang around and talk more, we're going to be, or at least I'm going to be here for a while, and we can continue these conversations. And then there's going to be an evaluation at the end for us. Great. So I'm going to, sorry. So we're going to get started with this training by thinking about some questions that you might have about your rights at work. These can be COVID-related questions, or they can be not related to the pandemic. They can just be general questions about your legal rights or your right to organize, things like that. But I would love for people to jump in and maybe bring some questions forward. I'm going to be typing them out on these sticky notes as we go along. Okay. So if anyone has any questions that they have brought with them today, I can just go ahead and type them out. And also feel free to say them. You don't have to just type them. You can just say your question. So would anyone like to get the ball rolling? Maybe it's a question about minimum wage. Maybe it's a question about maternity leave, something like that.
If anybody would like to type in the chat, I will read it to Emily.
Oh, come on, guys, don't be shy. I'm sure you have a million questions. Furloughs, okay. could you be a little bit more specific about the furlough question? I'm actually going to have to go out of this format to click on it. Okay, so I'm going to put in here furloughs and we can come back to that. Maybe a couple other questions that I have had on these workshops before. These workshops have been about your legal rights in regards to minimum wage or minimum wage in particular locations. Oh, wait, we have a question. How do we work? Okay, I'm gonna type it in. How we do work changes. Okay, how we do work changes. Okay, and that's from Terry. Did someone say something? Nope. Okay.
Emily, we've had tons of questions in our last several workshops about workers really want to know what are my rights to stay safe at work?
Okay.
I'm getting called back to work.
Yeah, getting called back to work, absolutely. So we can kind of phrase it as a question of how do I stay safe? How do I
if I get called back to work, if I get called back to work in my workplace, how do I keep myself safe? And what are my rights?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that obviously COVID and the pandemic is kind of on the forefront of everyone's mind right now. I think there's a lot of questions about.
In our last workshop, we also had a very more specific question, which is, what is the OSHA standard on X? How do I find out about the OSHA standard on whatever?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I forget the OSHA. Let's see. What is the acronym for OSHA? I'm going to spell it out for everybody. Adair, could you help?
Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
OSHA.
OS?
OSHA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
These are some great questions to start with. During our time today together, we are going to look at some of these questions and others that you might have had about your rights at work, and we are going to look at a tool that the Washington Labor Center has developed to really not just answer these questions, but also look at the ways that you can protect yourself in the future and protect your coworkers. So it's a resource-based tool, and we are going to kind of answer some of these questions together. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. Okay. So as an introduction, for many, many years, the Labor Center has published an updated 100-page workers' rights manual. The manual now lives online, and I will show you guys the manual in digital form, the website, in a little bit. But it's updated regularly, and it offers up answers to questions, really important questions, like can they do that, and what can we do about it, as I mentioned earlier. It's also important to note that it's not accessible to everybody at all times. You do need internet access to access the manual, the website. And there's also some limitations in terms of language. Right now, we are working on expanding it as quickly as possible. So we're looking at expanding accessibility and also usefulness. So like all information, it really depends on how it's being used and amplified and shared. And that's why we're giving these workshops. We do have a PDF form of the manual available in English and Spanish, just to let you guys know. So before we go and look at the website, I wanted to kind of give an overview of how it's organized so we can navigate it together really efficiently. The manual and the website is organized under 5 primary rights that you have as a worker. So the first right that you have is your right to be paid. The second right is the right to be safe. Third is the right to be free of discrimination. And fourth is the right to take care of yourself and your family. And the fifth right is the right to organize, which is the right that all other rights come from. So most of our rights will fall into these 5 categories. And there are plenty of those that don't fit perfectly, but as you can, we'll demonstrate, they are ways of navigating these questions. So before we go forward that, I'm going to screen share again. And let's see here. Okay. So can you guys all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So at the top here, we have these 5 categories of rights that I just mentioned. And I think it'd be useful before we go and take a look at the website to categorize these questions that we have. So who would like to, and we can piece this together, and I can move these sticky notes around as best I can, and I can place it in these categories. So furloughs, which category of rights do you think this falls under? And please, you can say it out loud, you can type it in the chat, but this is, you know, supposed to be a friendly space, so if you'd like to just blurt it out, that'd be great. So I can't see the chat right now, but I would put furloughs into the right to be paid, but it's also a question about organizing as well. So I'm going to keep it where it is. Let's see. So second one we can take a look at is if I get called back to work in my workplace, how do I stay safe? A very critical question. And this one seems to be a pretty obvious category. It'd be the right to stay safe, correct? Let's see. How do we work changes with the CTC link? Is there anything that we need to be aware of? I think that was Tara. If you could maybe explain a little bit more what CTC link is, we can help find out what category it is. Okay. Let's see.
Emily, it's a workflow question. It has to do with work redesign.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're taking our paper-based business and moving it into an online tool.
Okay.
So it's an ERP system, so it's impacting everybody from faculty and entering their classes to finance and doing invoicing and billing. And so there's been some concern about, okay, jobs are changing, what people are doing is changing, and how does that impact the employees?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what do we need to be aware of as we're doing these plannings
Mhm.
and talking to people about it, so that we don't freak people out?
I mean, that sounds like a really large concern. So you're talking about processes and internal processes, but you're also talking about your ability to communicate effectively with your coworkers. And you're also talking about, it seems like, the ability to talk to larger powers that be about your workplace security and your workplace and your work functions, correct?
Right, right. So things that, like I said, they fill out a form and turn it into somebody, and now they're being expected to do the data entry themselves,
Mhm.
or uh,
Yeah. Well, if
more
you,
people have access to the system, or today's system is so hard to use, a lot of people aren't given access, so more people are going to have access to the system. They need to understand on the finance side and business office side, they need to understand more about accounting in order to use the system, effectively. And we're asking a lot of people to, do a lot of training and participate in UAT, and it's becoming overwhelming for a lot of people.
yeah, sounds like it. Um, well, if you, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a specific legal statute pertaining to this, but I think that we can look at what resources you might have available. If you could, if you were to take a look at these 5 rights, which one do you think that this question or these kinds of questions would be under?
I'm thinking it's falling under right to be paid, but like I said, I'm here to learn, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
This is Adair speaking from the Labor Center. Having spent 40 years of my life being a union officer, I would say because you are lucky enough to be in a union position, in a well-organized company and system, right, as state employees here, there aren't a ton of laws that talk about work design, in that the employer everywhere has the right to determine how the work gets done within limits of health and safety, within limits of some of your individual rights. So the employer has the right to figure out what work needs to be done and how to get it done. On the other hand, we say, and we believe deeply and profoundly, workers are the experts in their own work. And some of the process changes that are going to happen in our workplaces as CTC Link is implemented needs worker involvement. I know there are work groups set up within the colleges to help sort of figure out how CTC Link lands in our lives. And you probably have some contract clauses that talk about work that gets redesigned and the workers' rights as work is being redesigned. So there's a couple different places to look there. You look to the implementation committees that are taking input right now, and you'd look to your contract clauses and sometimes state and actually civil service law. What happens if someone's job description changes radically? What are their rights as a worker? If the job that I used to sit at a desk doing, now I'm at home doing, if the actual job itself changes radically, what are my rights? And there's lots of them for civil servants in the state of Washington, and I would be willing to bet that our respective contracts also elaborate on them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I think it also would be helpful for us maybe to kind of go through these rights a little bit more in depth. I'm just going to kind of discuss a little bit categorically how we are differentiating them. And like I mentioned before, that these categories aren't perfect. And when we kind of look for the answers to some of our questions, there's going to be some that kind of fall into both categories, and that's okay. So the first is the right to be paid, and you can kind of think about that as overtime, minimum wage, breaks, tips, under the table pay. The right to be safe is health and safety rules, ergonomics, but it also covers things like immigrants' rights in terms of being safe from ICE, sexual harassment, general harassment at work. The right to be free of discrimination, so that's discrimination based on gender, race, age, citizenship, or language. Formerly incarcerated people, pregnant women as well. The right to take care of yourself and family, the largest one is FML, usually it comes underneath that. And the right to organize, so we kind of mentioned that earlier, is that it's the foundation to all these other rights. It covers your right to organize and your right to make your union the way that you feel most empowered within it. It also covers the rights of any workers to have concerted action. I think that's a helpful foundation. We're going to come back to some of these questions, and I encourage you to also keep on adding them to the chat or just kind of saying them out loud as we go along. I am now going to look at the website itself. Go here. Here we go. Okay, so as you can see, here at the top of the page. Okay. So here is the manual. It's laid out and supposed to be organized for you to have a question on hand and kind of use our larger categories to get to the resources and answers that you might have. So we have your 5 basic rights in Washington laid out right here, so you can see. And we also have them up here as well. So we have them all laid out. Oops. I don't think it changed anything. Oh, that's just the same page. Okay. So as we go through, you're going to notice that there's different, here, I can kind of give you an example. Know the right to be paid. There's going to be different differences in rights that you have depending on your region, depending on the leadership in your region and other kinds of nuances. And the reason that that is because it reflects the dynamics of organizing and public policy and leadership. And that's because every single right that we have or that we're entitled to is the result of a fight and a win, and usually years of struggle to get there and to have success. So it's going to be reflected in how uneven it is across the state, for example, what you have a right to or what you're entitled to. So it's important to also make sure when you are navigating this website that you have a clear understanding of some of the details of your question. So if you're asking about minimum wage, it's important to know, to ask yourself, okay, well, where is this located and things like that. So let's take a question from here, and let's navigate the website together. If you guys would like to pull this up on your browser, I believe that Adair drops into the chat. Thank you very much, Adair. But I'm going to have it up in front of you here. So let's take a look at this one. We've been hearing about people's rights who might fall into the category as vulnerable. And this was a question about being called back to work. So where can we look, or how can we, go about answering that question? So if we want to know how people who are in categories of vulnerable can be protected at work, and what their legal rights are and what resources they have available to them, what category would we look in first? So out of these, oh man. Okay.
I think some of the COVID-related questions are going to be right up top in the big COVID banner that you showed us at the beginning.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's important to note that the manual has an incredible wealth of information. And right on the front, we have updates about COVID, and we are updating them quite regularly as we can. And so there's going to be other places that you can look on this website. And I think that's also just an important thing to note, is that there's a wealth of information on here, and you might need a little bit of patience, but there is so much information on here. It's really valuable. So we can take a look at some workers' rights protections. What do you say? Do you guys think this is a good place to look?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So you can see here, it lists some of the newer pieces of protection for workers in regards to COVID, and it also links resources. So we can take a look here of where it links us to. Okay, and this goes right to the L&I's website where you can find even more detailed information. And it also, let's see. Let's see here. Okay, this is for sick leave, for hazard pay. I'm also going to take a look at your right to be safe at work. I feel like this definitely would fall under that category, and we can take a look here about health and safety agencies that would be able to provide you with resources as well. Okay. So if you can see here, it's like an accordion. You can kind of think about when you kind of have one area that you're looking into, you can just keep going deeper to find more and more information about what your legal rights are as a worker, but also what resources you have available to protect yourself and your coworkers. Or what organizations are working to protect your rights as well. Take a look here. Okay, awesome. So we don't have a ton of time left, but I would love for us to split up into small groups and practice a little bit more. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing. And there's actually a good amount of people. So this is great. I'm going to split us up into small groups, and I'm going to drop in the chat the prompt for our small groups and some of the questions. Okay. So, bear with me, guys. So I'm going to be dropping into the chat 3 prompts. And each group is going to take on a different prompt. So it's first, the numbers didn't copy, of course. I'm gonna go drop that in again. Sorry, guys.
So Emily, is each group supposed to take one of these questions? Is that your game plan?
I wanted to just renumber them. So each group is going to take one of these questions, and I'm going to number your group so you know which question to take a look at.
Okay.
If you are feeling ambitious, you can do 2 or 3 if you have time as well. So afterwards, we're also going to come back together and kind of look at some of the questions that you might have had, or maybe troubleshoot. So take a look at the questions now. They're going to be up while you are in your small group, so you can refer to them. I'm also going to, again, just copy the website so everyone has them. And then just bear with me while I split
You
everybody.
can do that.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to create those now. All right. So they're going to be labeled breakout room 1, 2, and 3. And that will be the number of the question that you guys are looking at. Okay. Oh, and we're going to be about 10 minutes.
Hi.
Hello again. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hello, everyone. People are filing in. Let's see, I'm going to drop in the chat our hello, everyone. Okay. So I think that a lot of people had to run. We are at the end of our time together, but if everyone who's here would like to discuss your experiences in small groups, I would love to hear it. I'm also going to drop our evaluation form in the chat. Oh, actually, that's not the right link. Sorry. This is the right link. Almost. I'm going to drop the eval form in the chat, so if you guys have to run, we would still really appreciate feedback. But I was able to jump into a couple of breakout rooms, and I really appreciated the discussion. Would anyone like to share some of the findings that you had, what worked, what didn't work, what was inspiring? Michelle?
Yeah, I think in our breakout group, it was good to know that if the hazard assessment of the specific job did not require PPE, that it was something that could be brought up to our union reps and bargained for.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Dare, how was your breakout room?
It was good. We answered the first question, and we began looking into how do you find out where do you go if the employer is doing something wrong, and got to see that you could click through to complaint forms in just about every section of the guide.
Yeah, we looked at that too, which is a pretty powerful resource. We also looked at, in one of our groups, the other community groups that were available to you if you wanted more support, or you felt that maybe going the complaint form option was not really going to be enough. So we were taking a look at that, which was really, really great. Also, I wanted to know if you have any more specific questions that we didn't get to today, and I know that there were definitely some in the chat that I didn't get a chance to see. I would be happy to either speak with you directly. We're also going to send out an email after this with some more resources for everybody, and so we can definitely try to address those questions. Wouldn't want to leave you hanging. Awesome.
Is that the correct form link in the email? It says our choices of dates are July or August.
Ooh, link, sorry.
I guess it doesn't matter because you'll know when we filled it out.
Sorry. Yeah, I tried updating that earlier and it didn't. If you, let's see, I can try to change that now actually, but I might just send out an email with the updated date to everybody. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. Easy to do when you're reusing the form. Very easy to do.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Great. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I hope that this was a informative and inspiring workshop. I really, really love being able to talk to everyone, especially at my institution. It's really a privilege to be able to do this with people at South Seattle, or the Seattle colleges in general. So yeah, I hope to hear from everybody soon with in the eval form. Yeah, if you have any other questions, definitely. Oh, I'm gonna put my email in the chat just in case.
Well, thank you guys for the information. Like I said, I got on it so I can learn, and I definitely have resources and places I can go. So thank you.
Great. And we're glad to chat a little bit more about specific questions that came up. You can probably find us somewhere in the team system.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I think it's on Teams.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.
Okay. Take care.